Far Cry Primal, a game set in prehistoric times with rich environments from grassy plains to forests to snow-covered mountains. Where everything in the environment is trying to kill you, from rival tribes to wild animals. It's a game of survival and triumph. And today I'm inspired by the main protagonist, Takkar, and I want to make a figure from a surprising source. So sit back, won't you, and enjoy this makeover. This is a Spiderman figure from Spiderman 2099, a futuristic Spiderman, but I liked the fact that he was basically a blank body that I could build on. Has the same sort of human physical stature that Takkar has, so I'd like to give him a go. I'm going to start by doing a mould of his face. Now, I'm not very good at sculpting, so I'm using this Superman figure. He's got a good stoic expression, so I'm going to make a cast or mould from him, just using plasticine and simply pressing it in very carefully. I don't want to make it too distorted. It will distort a little bit because of the nature of the plasticine, but it's going to do the trick, I think. If I peel it away, you can see the negative impression there. My casting material is an acrylic sealant, water-based, and when it cures, it takes about 24 hours though. It's quite flexible and can be easily trimmed and moulded to whatever surface. It glues quite easily to plastic, so that's a plus. So carefully removing it after about 24 hours. You could probably leave it longer. Probably the longer the better. As you can see, there are still some deeper recesses that haven't quite cured properly, so they've pulled away, but that can be fixed in post. So you get quite a nice impression of Superman's face. Of course, I'll be trimming this down, cutting away all those areas I don't need, like the hairline and all that extra flashing around the edges. But basically all I need is the face to create the face of Takkar. There's a hole there from where the cast didn't quite take, but that can be easily filled. So I've trimmed the face down, and now I'm just sticking it to Spider-Man's blank head, if you like, because it's a masked version, of course. I'm just using more of the acrylic sealant to adhere it to the plastic. Once that's dried, I'm just going to use some milliput to pat out the rest of his head and make the face blend to the Spider-Man figure. Just using little patches at a time, and then just moulding them together, smoothing them out a little bit so I can make it look seamless. Creating some hair texture with some tools just to start giving him that Takkar look. Just creating the texture of the hair. And now I'm adding more volume to the hair, more wild tendrils, just to get that Takkar look, that caveman look. Just building on the undersculpt, if you like, just to give it that nice windswept character. Blending the separate hair follicles together using different tools, even a toothpick, just trying to make sure that everything sticks properly and looks uniform. And there it is. That's pretty much the end sculpt for the head. I've made the long ragged tails and his ponytail at the back, and it's starting to take shape. I've even given him maniples because otherwise he looked too much like a store mannequin. Had to trim off his Spiderman fingers and re-sculpt those, but he's coming along. Now I've undercoated the whole body, head to toe, in a flat grey primer. This is the starting point for the repainting. No more resemblance to Spider-Man anymore. Naturally, you start off with flesh tone on the face. This will take a couple of coats to stop the grey from bleeding through. Just using a Tamiya flesh tone acrylic. And again, on the upper torso, I won't bother painting the legs because they're going to be totally concealed with clothing. The whole process will also take 2 coats. Once it's dried, you can see it's a nice all over even flesh tone, and it's exactly what I want. All the exposed areas are now painted flesh colour. But of course, he's a caveman and he's not going to be totally clean, so I've got to grunge him down a bit, and I'm using brown shoe polish, just liberally applied all over. Then dabbed off with a rag just to create a texture and reveal some of that sculpted detail as well. And the same process for the face. Just to bring out the detail, show a bit more contrast. Time for the hair. Again, just a flat brown Tamiya acrylic, and just going all over the sculpt, covering up the grey because he's a bit younger than a grey-haired old man. Beard and eyebrows, just to give him that Takkar look. It's starting to look more and more like the character every stage. I'm giving it a wash of black shoe polish just to darken down the brown, because he has quite a dark brown hair colour, and also this will bring out a lot of texture in the sculpt of the hair. Painting the whites of his eyes. This is very fiddly and takes a little bit of mucking around with, but I get there eventually. He's also got a face paint, tribal markings I guess they are. So I'm just copying those as per the game. Got to make it look like he's applied it himself with his fingers. Also he has tribal paint applied to his body as well. Now it's time to make some faux leather. He wears a lot of animal skin, so I'm using the same acrylic sealant for this process, and I've simply flattened out a couple of pieces of plasticine, and I'm going to liberally brush it all over, trying to make a reasonable thickness, not making it too thin, and I'm going to let that cure. Here it is here, it's nice and leathery in feel, and it's very paintable, so that's even better. And I'm going to stick it to the back of this faux fur to emulate some sort of animal hide. These are his wrists and forearm coverings that I'm making here. Going to glue them on and then use a couple of elastic bands just to keep them in place, and also create a strapping texture, wrinkles. Now it's time to glue some faux fur to his lower calf area, because he wears big fluffy boots up to about his mid-calf. He also wears some more fur over his shoulders and upper back, so I'm just sticking that on as well. Cut to shape, of course. Some more faux leather, or fake leather, painted, and he wears it in layers, so I've created a couple of skirts for him, and I'm gluing those in. Now for a mixture of grey paint, acrylic paint and glue, PVA glue, just to dirty down his fluffy boots and stain them a bit as well. When this dries, it'll be quite firm, but it'll also give me the look and texture that I want as well. Just some more fur trimming where it's required. And I'm making his spear, and I've just used a bit of dowel, just the right diameter. I've split the end, and out of milliput I've created the spear tip, and now I'm just staining it with some brown shoe polish just to grunge it down a bit. I've also roughly carved bits and pieces out of the dowel so it looks a bit more irregular. And I'm using a vinyl stripping just to create that leather look binding, just to give it that caveman look. It's all about the detail. So there you have it, fellow humans. This is my version of Takkar from the game Far Cry Primal, the main protagonist, from a Spiderman 2099. And I don't think you can spot the Spiderman anymore, but he's come up quite well. I'm quite happy with this. Lots of little interesting details in him. All the faux leather, the little leather bag for his arrows, all made from that acrylic sealant, and it's come up quite good, I think. So this is Retro Rocket Man. We'll see you in the next one. Over and out.